Hello
And welcome.
to the Minimum Wage Podcast.
Or even the name.
Yeah, today we're joined by...
Patti Doughty, this little fella's mama.
I don't know about little, but doggone it.
Yeah.
I do happen to be her youngest, so I kind of get where she gets it from.
Yeah. But
He could be 80 years old and he's still going to be my baby.
So John and I were basically saying, like, we hate doing the core curriculum stuff. It's just a waste of our time until we get into our actual major stuff that we care about and that we're actually going to be doing in the future. And you were saying that the reason they do that, the colleges do that, is to make sure that any person with a degree from that university is not dumb as a doornail with regards to certain subjects like writing. Say they can't write a sentence, but they still get a degree in math. That doesn't look good. That reflects poorly on the university. But then John and I's counterpoint is that you should be able to just clep out of a ton of the things like philosophy, psychology,
And I'm saying, but you can.
English.
You just have to do the CLEP test. This is the problem. Nobody knows about those. And, you can take AP classes in high school, and our school is now looking into offering the AP test.
it's about time.
So
absolutely.
that gives you prior college credit. So
Right.
you're really dually enrolled if you're doing AP courses. And so it is comparable to CLEPing out. We were talking about at home, Deanna, our daughter, is, she's in medical school now. She was a cell and molecular biology major, and she decided to do an English minor. These days, people don't seem to do minors. The reason for it is because it's more coursework.
Yeah.
And she was in the honors program. So the honors program has 5 required courses in addition to everything else you have to take. So you automatically have an additional semester just from that.
You know what's crazy? Is they were telling me that, like, there's no additional work for being, like, part of the honors, but a bunch of people told me, like, no, there's definitely a bunch of extra stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
so
they've got
it's just, like,
prosthesis and
was
capstone, and
so what they kind of do is
like
like
5
hide it
courses.
under the guise of electives. So for any degree, you've got to get like general electives, like 30 hours of general electives.
Crazy.
And so all of the honors courses throw into that general elective pile. So technically, I think you can do it without taking extra classes, but that's super hard to do.
It would be very hard. And, Deanna, because she had the minor, then she had concentrations in her minor field also. And she did that because she wanted, when she applied for medical school, she wanted them to see she was both right and left-brained, because science and English come from different sides of the brain. So, she had a real theory behind all of this, and it was very sound. She really had thought through all of it, but it meant she had an extra semester. Dane's going to have to go an extra semester. Daelyn's going to have to go an extra semester.
Yeah, and I talked to Lawrence the other day, a friend of mine at Georgia Southern in engineering, and he's going to have to go another year.
Really?
Really?
What for?
Honestly, probably what some of it is transfer credits, but
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
They'll do you wrong.
They will do you so wrong with transfer credits.
They
Even if
will.
you take like a completely comparable course, they're going to do you so wrong with transfer
let's
credits.
cut 2 off that.
Yeah, and I
But-
think a lot of that probably is just money, to be honest with you.
But I was talking to
It's always
somebody
money.
this week,
True.
yesterday, I guess, about, you having to go an extra semester and
Yeah.
Dane needing to do an extra semester. Anyway, they were saying that's the advantage to AP, because you'll start college already with a certain number of credits.
Yeah.
So that might negate the third semester that you need as a senior
Oh,
to
yeah.
be able to complete all your requirements.
Oh, yeah, especially when I look at it, like, what I could have done pretty much was take 12, 12, and 12. So if I had taken, like, 4 AP classes in my entire high school career and gotten, like, a 3 or above on the test,
You could genuinely, like,
I could have just skipped a semester.
Well, so
or
you
even
don't
a year.
you don't
Yeah,
have
if I did
to.
8.
If you do it right, you can just get a whole year out of
Yeah.
the way.
But this is the deal. You don't have to take an AP course. It's not required to take the AP
AP
exam.
test,
and I
yeah.
don't think everybody understands that. A lot of the courses that we have taught at Alleluia in the past, Dan Funch's classes, Steve Swenson's classes,
Yeah.
really would qualify you to be able to pass the AP test. So even though it's not specifically an AP class, all that's necessary is you to pay your fee
Yeah.
and take the AP test. If you pass the AP test, bam, you got the credit.
So I was always super scared to do that because if you get a bad grade on it, I guess like you don't have to send that to colleges or whatever, right? But you are wasting that money. But I never knew what was going to be on the tests, and our teachers didn't either. So they can't teach. They can't basically like pander to the test with their teaching, which is what a lot of public school teachers in the AP classes do.
Yeah, but
they know the questions, and then they'll kind of gear their class toward what the questions are going to be.
But I'm telling you, Deanna was a cell and molecular biology major. I mean, this isn't a wimpy major.
Yeah.
You know, this is heavy duty science to get her
Right.
into medical school.
Yeah.
And when she
Just
was
to
a
get in.
senior,
It's
right,
craziness.
right. When she was a senior in college, in one of her microbiology courses that she was taking, that was a requirement for her major, the teacher began teaching stuff that Steve Swenson had taught in Deanna's high school science class.
Yeah.
And
High school biology.
she's asking, the teacher says, has anybody in the class ever heard of this? Deanna raises her head. The only kid in the entire class. I mean, these are all cell and molecular majors because they're seniors. So these are people very, very steeped in the sciences. And Deanna was the only person in the class who understood the concepts that were being taught in this class. So everybody started coming to Deanna and having her tutor them. And she said, "Dadgum, Steve Swenson taught this in high school, and this is a level 4, a senior level, cellular biology class, micro, in college. And Steve taught us this stuff." So, I mean, he might not have specifically known what was going to be on the AP test, but when you're teaching at that level and you have that quality and that much experience behind you, you are preparing your students. Certainly the students who get it and at the top of the class, the creme de la creme, there's not any reason why you guys couldn't have taken an AP exam. And honestly, what's it cost? $30, $40?
I don't know how much they are actually.
I don't think they're that expensive.
I just didn't want to spend the money knowing that I had zero clue what to expect from it.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
also
somebody
I don't
takes
want to
it and then and you pass it down the line.
Yeah. Also, my thought in high school was I didn't want to shortchange myself of the college experience because you're only there for a short period of time and then you're kind of just into the real world unless you extend it for a master's degree or a PhD or whatever. But I always knew I wasn't going to do that. So I kind of wanted the 4 years. I didn't want to shortchange myself in that time because that's when you can build a lot of connections. Everyone there is the exact same age as you, and that's a circumstance that you'll never be in another part of your life.
Daelyn, people don't think like that, darling. You are so unique in your perspective. College is a way to be able to network with people. You can meet people. Everybody just wants to get through the dadgum coursework and get out. Honestly, it's rare to have the attitude of...
I think that really one of the main values of college these days is to network with people.
Oh,
I don't network
exactly.
with people because
Absolutely.
I'm half a bum and
Just half, John, just half.
So the other half networks, yeah.
exactly, something like that.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because I think a lot of people view college in a lot of different ways, and I think it can be viewed in a lot of different ways, and it can be a lot of different things to a lot of different people.
Yeah, you can kind of use it however you want or however it's going to serve you the best. And for me, like, obviously I'm going to get my degree and I'm going to get a decent job afterward, hopefully, because the degree is, like, more competitive than most. However, my idea going into that, a lot of people go in with the idea that this degree is what's going to move me in the future. Like, my idea was never that the degree was going to move me on into the future. My idea was I was going to go and meet and connect with individuals that were going to help me along my path. And also that I was going to be able to do something in college that I actually enjoyed doing. So my thought from the start was different than most people in the regards of, like, not going for the degree. I mean, if that makes sense. Like,
Well, absolutely. And
like obviously
you
that's
know,
some of it.
Daelyn,
It's
I'm-
nice to have the piece of paper, and it's nice to have something that will help me, of course. Like, it would be a lot easier to get a job with that degree versus like if you're training yourself on the side, it's just easier to show that you've got the experience.
Well, I mean, you're not a liberal arts. Computer programming is less liberal arts. I mean, my degree was in English. What the heck are you going to do with an English degree? And I mean, I found my niche, but it took a while. Human resources was what my career was in, and I eventually found it after working lots of different jobs, and it was perfect. I mean, and it was a particularly excellent use of my English degree and the skills that I had learned obtaining my degree. But, I'm all about the networking. I mean, when I was in college, I was in student government, I was in the drama club, I was in, I did everything I could possibly do because I love people. You're so much like me, Daelyn. Talking to people, getting to know people, building relationships and friendships with a wide variety of folks. And I always did work study. And I always worked on campus. Well, it's like you, being a teaching assistant.
Oh, okay. So it's a job with the university.
Right. And what they do is they give you, instead of receiving wages, they take that off of your bill. So essentially you're paid. So I worked in the Latin lab.
Hey guys, we're going to charge you slightly less for all these excessive fees that we throw on you every semester.
Well, back in that day, it was a whole lot cheaper, John. A lot cheaper because it was more
so many fees
of a community college. I mean, it was still a university, But
so my question was like, was it just a lot cheaper because of inflation? Like we have just. Was it the same price if you look at the adjustment for inflation?
I don't think so, and I'll tell you why. Because I think at that point, Augusta College, it was called Augusta College back then, and people saw it very much as it wasn't. It was a 4-year university, but because it had the name college in it, people didn't see it as a university. So enrollment.
I thought university was they give out upper level education degrees, like
I think the technical definition of a university is that they have separate schools.
I was about to say, I think it has to do with like what
different
type
departments.
of like having different
right, like you're
departments and being the university of knowledge because they're unifying different fields.
Oh, it's okay. That makes sense.
Yes,
Yeah.
and also you do they did even back then. They offered graduate courses. I mean, a lot of my upper level English courses I had. There were 600 and 700 courses. So back then it was all, instead of 1101, it was 101 and 102.
Yeah, okay.
And so if it was a senior level course, it began with a 4, and it would be like, English 404 or whatever, and 404, 604, 704. So there'd
now
be
it's like
graduate
English
students.
2372
Yeah.
A
CSCI 4400 like
yeah.
E2
yeah E2 XAE 12
right. Like I don't even know what
like
Nobody knows what it means, including the registrar's office.
Exactly.
I guarantee
yeah,
you.
exactly.
Yeah.
And that's
But-
why you have so many problems registering.
exactly.
I
They don't even know what they're doing.
I worked as a work study student, but then I got a job in the registrar's office. Oh my gosh. I mean, I got to go to the president's dinners all the time, and I got to know all the faculty really well and all of the staff. Talk about networking. I mean, it was amazing. And that's why your brother, when he was needing a part-time job, I said, let's see if we can get him in the registrar's office. And that's, that's how we ended up through, our mutual friend, getting him in that job in the registrar's office. And he loves it. He absolutely loves it. He's getting to know a lot of, the faculty and the staff at Augusta University. And it's just a wonderful way to network and begin to build relationships that really, it's like you, Daelyn. You network everything you do. I mean, look at your job at the Masters this year. It's because every year you build relationships with somebody that then is a building block for the next year.
Yeah.
You network.
Yeah, and honestly, a lot of it it's just it's natural. Like, you build relationships with people who are like you, right? People that have the same ideas and views as you. Like, that just happens like pretty immediately. But I would say it's a lot easier now in AU, especially in my field, because they separated out the cyber and computer science majors. Now we have our own building. So when you're in there, you're with people that are like-minded. So it's like they're, number one, you're same age. Number two, they're in the exact same path, so more than likely going to be doing the same thing as you in the future. And number three, they already have some of the same ideas and beliefs and ideals as you. So it's super easy to build connections already. So it's more like, it just kind of happens rather than seeking it out. And I think that's one of the benefits of being in a place like the registrar's office, or like really just being out there rather than being in your room all day long. If you're just out there, whether you're doing your work in just a common place or what have you, I think it's important to be around, just out and about.
And I disagree with you, not with that point, but I think an important point in networking is to begin to build relationships with people that don't think like you.
Yeah.
To reach out to those people that maybe are in fields different from yours, that maybe you don't align your thoughts with completely, because that adds a lot of value and levels of foundation to you personally. To be able to talk to people that don't necessarily think just like you.
Oh, yeah, true. And I think that's super important, because you're never going to grow if you're listening to the same thing over and over again.
Right.
Which is a big problem on the internet these days, because
Yeah.
it's really easy to just put yourself in like this safe,
Little bubble.
little box and especially on the internet, if you see something that you don't like, you just keep scrolling.
Yeah.
Right.
Until you find something that you do. And then it's like, oh, this guy knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Whenever you just, there was like 100 people who had views that you didn't agree with, but you also didn't bother to talk about it at all, because all you cared about was, let me find someone who agrees, and then let me post a like.
You didn't hear them out. I think a lot of that, I believe we've talked about this on the pod, but that's people
like
tying, that's people tying their beliefs to themselves. So I think you should separate like your ideas from your character, because people take it as a personal attack on their character, and they take it personally.
That's very true.
When you have an opposing viewpoint, right? But I think you should have all your viewpoints over here and then your character here, so that your viewpoints can change. When you have a new...
And they should.
Yeah, exactly.
They should change.
And John was talking about this a little bit.
And so does your character grow.
Yeah.
Right.
But separately.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And the other thing is, we haven't touched on this in this podcast, but life is about seasons. Yesterday was my 62nd birthday.
All about seasons.
Yeah. It was my 62nd birthday. When I was in my 40s, I didn't think the way I think now.
Yeah.
I didn't value the things I value now. When I was in my 20s, heck no. Your character changes, your values change over time, and they should. If I am trying at 62 to act like a 22-year-old, I have issues.
Yeah. That's
I
true.
mean, it's true. You need to be able to grow and change in the various seasons in your life, and that's part of life and part of maturing, the normal process of maturity. You should be changing, and your values and your character, like John said, should also be changing.
Yeah, and John was texting me the other day about that, actually. So we kind of watch podcasts and take pointers
If you
from
don't
them.
mind, I can tell this very well.
Please, yeah.
Okay, so I feel that our generation is the first of a new age of people, in that whenever we grew up whenever people already had iPhones, already had the internet in their pocket, and we had already had entertainment experience and the media for a decent amount of time, which gives us the opportunity to now look back and see people change and grow, and see how they became who they are now from who they were. And now, previously, if you wanted to learn about life, you only had the people in your life. But now you can like look online at thousands of people's lives and how they've
So the age
changed
of
and
communication,
grown,
essentially.
the choices they've made. Right. We just have like more access to it, and I feel like it's just creating a different type of people.
How so? In what way are they different?
I don't know. It's I think it's
I think
interesting.
there's a duplicity there, though, John, which concerns
Right.
me a little bit, because what you're saying is true. You know, you can look back historically, and that can cause you to see how things have changed. But I think a lot of times it has the opposite effect.
Right. It can.
That technology causes people to stagnate. Like they
Yes.
get where they are, and then they don't. They're
People-
holding on to that.
people
you know.
get content with where they are
Right.
because they're afraid of continuing to push forward and everything not being fine. People are like, it's fine now. I don't want to risk it not being fine.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's not how it works, gentlemen. An asteroid could strike Earth right now. We could all be dead.
Yeah.
It is not unlikely at all. Recently, our sun had a massive event. A lot of
Oh yeah.
EM radiation missed Earth, thankfully, but had it have hit Earth, different story.
Yeah.
So, you
know,
can't really live life like that.
Yesterday,
It's not a way to live.
This is way off topic, but we went to the parade, the St. Patrick's Day parade yesterday.
Yes.
Yeah.
Happy St. Patrick's Day.
And I have often said, I say it every year, probably 30 times every year. The city of Augusta throws a parade for me for my birthday every year. And all these people throw out candy, and I am absolutely, you were there, you were sitting with us. I'm ruthless about collecting the candy, John.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I'm running
yeah.
over
yeah,
the
no,
kids.
yeah.
I'm running
She
out in the
was
street.
Flattening all the children.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They don't stand a chance, dude.
Walking over here like Flat Stanley.
Well,
you know?
Exactly.
I tried to get in a place where there were no children. So
Yeah. No, it's
No, yeah,
true,
yeah.
dude. It's true.
That's the fact of the
So
matter.
you ever watch college football? Yeah. Yeah.
You ever see rugby?
in any case, we came home last night, and I'm embarrassing myself. I'm flushing. My daughter and I were sitting in the living room sorting our candy, like when I was a kid after Halloween. Halloween night, we'd come home and we'd dump out our candy on the bed, and we'd sort it into piles of different things, and then we'd trade with our siblings. And so Deanna and I were doing last
The barter
night.
economy.
Yeah,
The barter.
yeah, the barter, exactly. Deanna and I are sorting all our candy, and I'm throwing Twizzlers at her because I don't like Twizzlers, and she's throwing things at me. And there were several things that neither of us liked, so we bagged it up and said, "Aha, we'll give it to some of the school kids. We don't like."
Y'all are maniacal.
So my husband, Uncle Don, comes walking in
I
to the
can't.
living room and says, "I don't know what happened to all of my candy from the parade."
No.
And I said, "That stuff that was sitting on the counter
Doggone
in
it,
the
they bartered
kitchen,
it away.
Bartered it
I
away.
took all of it. I
They
took all of
bartered
it."
it away.
And Daelyn's older brother, had said, "Okay, I've taken, Daddy and I were sharing candy, and I've taken all the candy out of it that I want. I'm taking it up to my room, and everything that's left there is just for whomever." And I said, "Well, Daddy doesn't want any candy. He was getting it for me." So I went in and got the rest of the candy and stuck it in my stash. So Don comes walking in, and he's like, "Where's my candy?" And I said, "Oops." You wanted candy? So anyway, he was kind of offended that we had taken all the candy. So Deanna's showing him. He said, "Well, what about those long, stick things?" And Deanna said, "Twizzlers?" And he said, "Yeah, that's what they're called." And Deanna said, "Oh, Daddy," she's such a dadgum kiss up. She said, "Oh, Daddy, I saved all of them for you." And she gives him the bag that was the throwaway candy that we were going to give to, the kids. Anyway,
She gives the
she gives
throwaway
this to
candy.
Daddy. Yeah. And he starts going through it, and he said, "Ooh, I love these Twizzlers." And Deanna's like, "Good, Daddy, there's lots in there." And she said, "What about banana Laffy Taffy? Do you like that?" And she and I were throwing it back and forth at each other. "Ew, banana Laffy Taffy, ew." And so we put that in the bag. And Daddy says, "Oh, I love banana Laffy Taffy."
What?
And I mean, my mouth is...
What in the world?
I'm staring at him like, could you be any different? Could you be any different? So it turned out like the 4 things that Deanna and I had thrown away, he likes all of them.
How do you not like Twizzlers and Laffy Taffies?
That's why.
That's crazy.
I don't know.
Well,
like 'em.
banana
You don't
Laffy
like 'em?
Taffy. I don't
Yeah.
like
You
banana.
don't like banana?
I don't
That's
like
like
banana
the
flavor.
best
I don't
flavor.
mind it. I don't mind banana Laffy Taffy, but the Twizzlers I do not
I
like
don't like
at all.
any.
What type of Twizzlers?
I don't like any.
Red.
Red. Yeah.
Well, like just the like normal Twizzlers, or
Yeah.
the ones that you can like
Oh
peel.
no,
Those ones have a
Ropes.
different flavor.
The
Yeah.
Twizzler.
I don't know what it is, but
Ropes,
they just
you
taste
mean?
better.
Yeah, those ones taste better for
I don't
sure.
like any licorice, period. But it apparently Dawn does. So we gave him that bag of candy, and I'm staring at Deanna, and he finally walked out holding the bag of throwaway candy with him.
I love how you're calling it throwaway candy.
And I looked at Deanna and I said, "Oh my God." And she said, "This is why you and Daddy are so perfect for each other. The two
Yeah.
of you couldn't be more opposite."
Hyori itai.
I love how
Two
she
sides
just
of the same
conned him.
coin.
What?
Like she just straight conned him.
Oh, she's a kiss up. What can you say, your sister?
That's wild.
She
She was
bats
like,
her
"Oh yeah,
eyelashes
oh
at
yeah,
him.
we saved
Daddy,
all the
this is
Twizzlers for you."
Daddy. Uh-huh.
Wow.
Yeah, that's your sister. You know, she bats her eyelashes at her daddy. "Hi, Daddy." You know, yeah. Kiss up. Anyway.
Getting outed on the pod, ladies and gentlemen. Cutting 4K.
She knows. It's no big surprise to her, let me tell you. Anyway, you know, it's interesting to me that we are so opposite. And, I mean, we really are. When we got engaged, the guy that introduced us was actually Don's roommate, and he was a friend of mine. And he introduced us, and at our engagement party, he said to me, he came over, we were standing there, you know, drinking champagne, and he walked over to me and he said, "I have no idea how the two of you ended up together. You have nothing in common. Nothing." And we said, our love of Jesus. I mean, that's it.
Yeah.
And our love of each other. That's it. We, you know, he likes the mountains. I like the beach. He likes it cold. I like it hot. You could go through, he likes mustard. I like ketchup. Literally anything that I say I like, he likes the exact opposite. I like Crest toothpaste. He likes Colgate. I like
That's true.
Pantene
No, that's
shampoo.
actually true.
He likes Prel.
I
mean,
use Pronamel.
you know, literally everything.
you're an outlier.
Everything in our lives. Anything that I would say, I use this or I like this, he doesn't. He uses something completely.
Yeah,
It's
and that kind of ties back
bizarre.
into what we were talking about earlier, where it's super important for you to have opposing viewpoints, so you don't get stuck
So
in
somebody
like, the same
gets
idea.
to eat the candy that you're going to throw
Exactly,
out.
the candy that you're gonna throw out, the candy that you're gonna give to the kids that you don't
Waste
like.
not.
Yeah,
Waste not. That's
of
right.
course. Yeah, but I think it's super important though with your spouse to have somebody that is very different from you, especially for your kids. So I thought about it, and you're gonna take this as offensive, but there's no way I'd be able to survive if it were just you. I need Dad to balance you out.
Oh, my parents were exactly the same. Can you imagine Grandma without Grandpa?
Be
I mean,
wild.
my mom was a saint, but my God, she was strict. And I mean, she was by the book. You didn't.
Facts.
You didn't mess up. My job was to clean the bathroom every Saturday. That was my chore. And she would come in the bathroom. She'd have to inspect it before she'd release me for the day. And she'd come in to inspect, and I swear to you, she'd run her hand over the top of the door frame and pull it down and say, "Dusty, not clean." And she always found
God.
something. Every week there was something new, you know? And I thought, I'm never going to learn how to clean the dadgum bathroom because Mom always had something more to do. And she was stern. You know, Grandpa, because Mom, you know, Daddy was in the Army. And before I was born, and probably the early years of my life, my older siblings say Daddy was never there. He was always out on maneuvers. He wasn't around. I don't remember that because Daddy had progressed up enough, you know, in the military. By the time I was born, he was around, except for the 2 one-year tours in Vietnam. I mean, he was gone 2 years of my childhood for a year at a time. That's a lot, you know.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But Mom had to be the mother and the father. And so she was really stern, and she didn't play around. Daddy, we used to call him, our affectionate term for him was the ringmaster. Daelyn, you want me to just turn it off, honey? Just turn it off. Daddy's at home. He can deal with the girls. Okay. We would call him the ringmaster. We would be sitting at the table eating dinner, and he would start with his humor and his goofing around and his cutting up. And he would have us kids, there were 5 of us, he would have us laughing so hard we couldn't eat, and there was absolutely no order. My mom would send us kids to bed without dinner. And as adults, I would say to her, Mama, why did you send us away from the table? She said, because I couldn't discipline your father.
Got him.
I had to do something to cut it off. There was absolutely no order. Chaos. Whenever my daddy was around, he was the fun parent. Oh, my God. We had so much fun. My sisters tell the story about Daddy chaperoning when we lived overseas. Daddy chaperoning a youth group trip. And they were in a hotel. And they put the girls on one floor and the boys on the floor below. Well, the kids were cutting up so much with each other that the chaplain put a chair on the landing between the 2 floors and was going to spend the night sitting on the landing to make sure that nobody snuck down to a different floor. Daddy came during the middle of the night and said, I've got it, go on to bed. And he said, you're going to take a shift. And Daddy said, I've got it, don't worry about it. You go on to bed. And as soon as the chaplain left, Daddy put the chair up and went on to bed. Because he trusted the kids. The chaplain didn't. But also on that same trip, he took his driver's license and went and rented go-karts for all of the kids. They were on the beach in the Netherlands. He rented go-karts.
In the Netherlands?
They have a beach in the Netherlands?
Yeah. And he let the kids all take off on these golf cart. Well, they weren't golf cart. They were like dune buggy kinds of things. Daddy paid for all of them and used his driver's license because none of the kids had driver's licenses.
Right.
And they took off down the beach. And, the kids came
It's a
home.
good thing he's dead because they'd be prosecuting him at this point.
The poor chaplain. Oh, my God, this poor chaplain. Daddy was just trouble.
That's wild.
But he loved having fun, and he figured if the kids were having fun with him, not without him. If he was doing it with them, then he was able to supervise them. Another thing they did, he led this. He and the kids in this hotel. I mean, they terrorized this poor hotel. This was my father, a grown man. They took every single picture in the hotel, took them off the walls, and hung them upside down.
Every single one.
Every single picture in the entire hotel. And so when they
How
checked
big was the hotel? Was it
when
like
they checked out of the hotel, all the staff had to run around redoing every picture in the hotel, and it was just fun.
That's
it was
just wrong.
It was harmless. It didn't hurt anybody. It was
Hey,
just
they're on the clock still.
it was just a fun thing to do. Anyway, so my daddy was absolute trouble, and Daddy and I, we balance each other.
Yeah.
We are such opposite extremes. Yeah, either one of us. You wouldn't want to be raised by just Daddy either.
Yeah. That's true.
I mean, it takes 2 people because he fills in all of my gaps. And we've said from the time we got married, he is strong in all of my areas of weakness, and I am strong in all of his areas of weakness. So it's a perfect complement. It's like 2 puzzle pieces that fit together.
That's true. And that's honestly, how long have y'all been married?
27 years, be 28 this year.
27 years. Yeah. And I think that's why it's lasted so long, And will continue to last.
That and the fact that he just laughs at me when I am ugly to him.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you've got no chill when it comes to Dad, and he just has like unlimited patience. It blows my mind. I don't know how. Who has the patience like that? But
he loves me. And that's what's at the root of it. I remember one time when I was going through a particularly difficult season in my life where I was not a nice person. I didn't even like being around me. I had no choice, but I didn't even like being around me. And I remember one night, it was a hormonal thing, so it was a natural occurrence. But I remember talking to Daddy and saying, I don't know how you live with me. I really don't know how you live with me. I can't even stand me. I love you so much, and I'm so mean to you. And he looked at me and said, sweetheart, you are more than the sum total of your actions at any point in time. When, you're having a difficult time and you're being difficult, I know that we're going to get through it because that is not who you are.
Mm.
That's profound.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, and it's absolutely the truth. But, you know, when you're acting out and you can't even stand yourself, you know, the fact that he could see that and that he could say it and that he loved me enough to see past poor hormonal behavior,
Yeah.
you know, and to say this will pass and I'll have my sweet wife
So
back.
that kind of brings into question, like, you know, dating apps, they try and match you with somebody who's similar to you because that's who they think, you know, will go out and, you know, eventually delete the app, I guess. It's kind of weird, too, with dating apps, though, because they have an incentive to keep you on there. So they might have ulterior motives matching you with similar people to yourself. However, the idea has always been you go on dating apps to filter through all the people that aren't like you to find the people that are like you. And I think
Why would you want
fundamentally-
somebody like you?
Exactly. I think
you know?
fundamentally the idea might be flawed.
Flawed.
Yeah, flawed from the beginning with dating apps. What do you think?
I absolutely agree. So I think the concept in dating apps, the overriding concept, is what they're looking for is like a basic groundwork on which you can build.
Yeah.
And if you don't, I mean, there's very few people like Dawn and I that are polar opposites and still have something that we can build on. Most people have to have some commonality
Yeah.
to be able to build. And so I think that's what those dating apps are looking at. The problem is that I think they end up taking people that are too similar. And if you're too similar, you end up having the same shortcomings and same
Yeah.
strengths. And then where's the balance in that? There isn't any balance. I mean, years and years ago, there was a movie. It was starred Cher and I think Nicolas Cage, and it was called The Butcher's Wife. And Cher marries this guy that's a butcher, and then she meets Nicolas Cage and she falls in love with him. And there's a term that she uses in it. It's called my pull apart. And the concept is when the world was created, people were whole beings and the universe pulled them apart. And so the goal in life is to find the opposite side, your pull apart, that fits perfectly like a puzzle. And when you do that, then you're an absolute complement to each other. You've got opposite strengths.
Yeah.
You've got opposite weaknesses. You've got opposite ways of thinking. You know, I've said this for years, but Uncle John, puts very few limits on me. He married a very strong woman that has, you know, very strong ideas, and I'm very capable. And so he lets me run pretty much until he's reached his end. And then it's stop it or no, we're not doing that. When we were newlyweds, probably first 2 years of our marriage, I tried everything to change his mind. There is no changing Don Dowdy's mind. There's not. He's not going to change his mind. If he's decided something, that's that, and there's no changing it. And I had to learn to adapt.
Yeah.
I mean, if he said no, the answer was no, period.
Yeah.
Period. And I mean, he's stronger than I am, which I needed. I knew I needed somebody who was stronger than me. But, you know, one of the virtues I see in that is that because he has strengths that are different from mine, he also sees things so differently from me. And our entire marriage, I have gone to him when I'm at an impasse, when there's something that I just can't work through. I don't see any solution. I don't know how to move forward. And I'll go to him and I'll say, I'm struggling with this, honey. And I'll explain it all to him. I mean, it's going to be 28 years. He's never once missed, not a single time. When he says, this is what I think, it's always dead on. And it's the perfect answer for me. And I'm so thankful to have that. I'm so thankful to have somebody that I don't have to live, you know, I don't have to figure it all out on my own. When I reach a point where I can't figure it out, I've got him, and his wisdom is always something I never would have thought of. It never would have occurred to me in the natural because he's such a different person than me. But
Yeah.
it's always dead on. It's always the right answer.
So kind of going back to dating apps, though, do you think dating apps are going to take over the scene, or do you think that traditional dating will eventually like basically people will come back to their wits and be like, oh, we're doing things wrong?
Neither. I don't
What do
think
you
it's going
think?
to be either.
Do you think they're both going to be still existent?
Yes, I
How
think
so?
that because nature is
Aren't
nature.
Aren't they like both currently?
Yeah, of course
Still
they're
exist?
both
Like,
currently still existent.
Yeah, but I think I don't think we're gonna see in-person dating go away.
Do you think that there will be a shift though to where it's more of like a 90-10 thing where 90% are on the dating apps, trying to find their match
I
that
think
way?
it's going to be 90-10 to apps, and then 2 years later, everyone's going to be in person again, and then there's going to be some new app, and everyone's going to be all up on
It's
that,
going to ebb and flow.
and then it's going to fall out
Yeah.
and populate. It's not going to be one thing. I mean, going back to even what we're talking about, it's about different seasons.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Where it just shifts.
And I think
It's just going to keep shifting, but
I find it surprising that so many people now use dating apps.
Yeah.
I really do. I find it surprising.
yeah, I don't know the numbers, so
I don't know either, but
I
just
don't even know what
Yeah,
where
I
it
was just
stands.
looking
the
at a
people that I
study.
know.
I was just looking at a study, and I think a lot of it is singleness. Like there are so many people that are single and not looking for anything, that the people that are like looking for something congregate on the dating apps, if that makes sense. Like there are a lot of individuals that are just okay being single.
But let me ask you this, Daelyn.
Yeah.
On a dating app, it is not going to, I mean, obviously I'm old-fashioned, and this is, my way of thinking.
Yeah.
But no dating app is going to appropriately represent someone and the feel that they have. Like,
Yeah, of course not.
you're going to meet a girl in person and say, wow, I really like her. She's really interesting. She's cute. Maybe not stunningly beautiful, but she's fun to be around. I like her personality. I like her laugh. You don't get that from a dating app. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So dating apps are like the attraction piece of it, I guess. And that's what, they're run by attraction. You immediately see the person, you're like, oh, I'm attracted to them. Let me see what they're like. And then that's when you start so they all have the messaging aspect, so you can kind of message to get a little bit of a feel for how they are. But honestly, I don't think anybody can convey their true character through a message.
You can't.
You have to be in person to see who the person actually is.
And I think there will always be an element of that has to be organic.
Yeah.
And that's all, you're only going to get that in person. But I do think that there
you're
are
not going to
people.
spend your entire relationship online. Like after you match, then the idea is you go out.
But even then, Daelyn, I mean, people like your age, I would find it difficult to believe that young people are as invested in dating apps. I think it tends to be people who've tried to do it organically and haven't found anyone. The 38-year-old women that haven't found a spouse yet, and the 40-year-old guys that are like, is there anybody out there for me?
Yeah.
So I think it's the people who have tried the organic dating and it hasn't found them a spouse. I think that's more likely the people who are going to gravitate towards dating apps. But I think there's always going to be people like you. I can't see you using a dating app, Daelyn. I really can't. Maybe I'm wrong. Are you using a dating app, Daelyn?
Of course.
Oh, God.
All of them. All of them.
All of them, right.
He's the one writing the software.
Of course.
Yeah.
I'm the one matching you with the person.
I mean, your personality, you are so outgoing. And I would imagine that you would want to meet a girl. And I mean, that there are lots of opportunities in y'all's lives for you to meet. You're in college right now. There's a lot of girls. There's lots of opportunities for you to meet girls. Now, I mean, if you look at somebody who's in their career and has been in their career for 10 years and they've already dated everybody that's in,
Their circle.
Yeah, that's a very different scenario. They're looking for new input.
Yeah.
And that's when I think a dating app comes in handy. So I don't think either one is ever going to overrun the other. It might be like John says, give and take,
The ebb and flow type thing.
But I think that there will always be organic dating, but there will also always be online dating apps. And I think I think it will eventually move more into the organic stuff will happen when you're younger.
Now,
And then when you're older, you'll turn to dating apps.
what do you think augmented...
Don't say augmented. We're talking about fake boobs there. What?
No, augmented reality.
That's getting clipped.
That is getting clipped for sure. Wow. Well, you made it to the highlight reel.
There it is. Oh, goodness. No, augmented reality.
I don't know what that is, John.
Augmented reality is where you hold
I'm
your...
sorry, I can't get past
So-
the word augmented.
Oh, my God. Get your mind out of the gutter. Good Lord.
My reality.
Good Lord. So, you remember Pokemon Go back in the day where you could hold up your phone and it would have the camera and then the Pokemon would be in your living room and you throw your Pokeball at the Squirtle that's in the middle of your living room?
No.
Okay, so the idea with AR, you know AR because of the Measure app. I can bring my phone to somewhere. It says move your iPhone to start. You move it around the room.
Yeah. And it measures.
Then you can tap a point on your screen. It'll add it. And then you move across the room, put another point there, and then you
it'll
can pull
measure
it
the
back
distance.
and it'll see the distance. And you'll be
Okay.
able to see the distance on your camera.
Okay.
Like where the distance that you're measuring
Right.
Now,
in real
that,
space.
but you're catching people in the Pokeballs, you know? You're like,
Yes. Yeah.
You're
And
my
it's
girlfriend.
a dating app.
Okay. Now, I'm sorry. Okay.
I choose you.
We're measuring a wall and we're throwing balls to Pokemon.
No,
and
no,
there's
no,
a
no.
girl there somewhere.
so I
I'm
was-
sorry.
Sorry.
You're not picking up what we're putting down at all.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Me and him are speaking another language.
Yeah. So,
Generational. What can I say?
we get on a hive mind a little bit too much.
Yeah,
so
sorry about that.
yeah. So what we're talking about, that's AR. What I explained to you was AR, the concept of having something in the digital realm mapped to the physical realm.
Right.
Right?
Okay. Okay.
So with an AR dating app, it would be kind of like you have your table at home set for two or whatever, and then you have your glasses on, and then you see the person that you're on a date with or whatever.
I don't know about like
you have an electronic date.
genuinely
Is that what you're
going on
saying?
the date.
Similar
I mean,
to
like
that. What are you
meeting them,
talking about?
maybe.
Meeting them in like that way?
Right. Yeah.
Interesting. So maybe it's like speed dating though.
Where it's like, well, actually, we already see that with like virtual reality chat rooms.
Interesting.
You know, where just people just go on VR chat, and I mean, obviously, people are using like outrageous character models, you know, but people meet and they talk.
What are we gonna do with her?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know either. Doggone it.
Oh goodness, I don't even know.
I don't even know.
Sorry.
Post production, we'll find out. I guess.
Post.
Wow. And that doggone bee made its way back in here.
I know.
Did
right?
it? Is it in here
Yeah.
still?
Well, no, it came back in. I just
But
saw another
where?
bee flying around.
You sure it's the same one or is it a different?
I
different
guess
one?
it could be a different one.
Gaps,
I don't know.
It's his friend Timothy.
His friend.
Yeah. Yeah. So what were we talking about?
You were talking about dating, augmented reality dating.
Oh, yeah. So I guess it could be something like speed dating. You know, I guess, well, like Tinder is, like left or right, but you get to see the person and talk to them for 1 second. Or for like, not 1 second, but like you get a certain amount of time. I don't know what the difference is with AR though. Like, that would be far
Okay, so
far
this
too
is the
similar to
deal.
just what like an online
yeah.
date would be.
This is what concerns me
It's it's just taking it one step further, really.
Yeah.
about some of those things. It's that you can hide behind a false identity for a very long time.
You ever watch the movie? There's a movie called Mrs. Doubtfire. You ever seen that one?
Well, yeah,
Deception.
but I mean, you know,
I'll get you. Catfishing.
Catfish.
I know of people who have married based on an understanding of who their spouse was, and after the wedding, and I mean, this didn't happen like they didn't meet and get married a week later. You know, this was a year or two later.
Mm-hmm.
They got married and discovered that the person that they married, it was all a lie. Like none of that was who that person really was. They put on an act based on who they believed the other person was looking for.
Yeah.
And they were that person, but that was not genuinely who they were. That scares the fire out of me.
So you think that'll be ramped up with online dating?
Sure. I mean, people that want to get married, it's really, really easy to carry out a fake. I mean, how many people really live who they are in general? I mean, we do. We value that. But very few people in today's society are really who they are.
Well, depending on what group they're with,
I think a lot of people
they're a different person.
Do struggle with, though, like understanding who they are.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about that, John. I'm talking about these people know exactly who they are, and they choose to be someone different.
So it's just purely out of manipulation.
Yes, it's manipulation because they choose someone and they say, I want to marry that person. And what this person wants is this personality, so I'm going to be that personality until I catch them. And I mean, I've seen it with my own eyes.
That's scary.
You have too.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. That's scary, actually. That's extremely scary to think about. And that's why I think it's so important to have family and friends that you truly trust around you to help vet that person. Because love blinds you quite a bit. If you think you're in love with somebody, you've got so many emotions, you've got so many chemicals going on in your brain, hormones. Yeah, you can't see a lot of the things that the people that are outside of that perspective can see. Like, this person might be an absolute bitch, and you can't tell. You need your mom to tell you that.
Case in point. One of my children was dating and told the person that they were dating that the family had to approve of them, or they could only go on 3 dates with them. If the family didn't approve, that was it. That was the end of the relationship, which of course put a lot of pressure on the relationship right from the get-go. And I don't, when I found out my child had done this, I was, aghast because,
what are you doing, boy?
It's not fair to put somebody in that situation. But anyway, they told the person they were dating this. So Don and I went on a double date with them. After the double date, my child came and said, "What do you think?" And I said, "I think you're looking for all the right qualities. I think what you want in a spouse, you're headed the right direction, but this is not the person for you." "What do you mean that's not the person for me? Can't people change?" And I said, I don't get it. What are you talking about? Long and short was my child, even though they said, you have to get along with my family. My family has to approve you. Mm-hmm. They continued dating this person for a year against our advice. And I mean, it got to the point that why should we say anything? We've already said it, and you didn't want to listen to it. The end result was finally my child realized that it was a mistake and ended the relationship. But by that point, there was a lot of hurt involved because the relationship had progressed a lot further.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you can say all you want. You have to decide that you're going to listen to your family members. But when it gets right down to it, you really do have to have a commitment within yourself to say, I'm going to trust what my family says. And in our situation, Daelyn's sibling didn't ultimately trust what we said, wanted to argue with us.
Yeah. And I saw that, and this is one of the major benefits of being the youngest, that you can see your older siblings make mistakes and then not make the same mistake.
Right.
So it's like people do the things that would like actually be like super harmful to you, and you don't ever have to experience the harm from them. And you can just learn from that lesson. So I saw that, and I was like, you know what? Before I even get into that situation, I'm just going to make the commitment to myself that whatever my family says about who I'm with, I'm going to believe them and agree with them more than myself. And that's kind of what you have to do with a lot of things before you get to that situation. Like in business, you've got to say, I'm going to be honest with this business before you get to the point where you can make $1 million with one lie,
Right.
So it's really important before you go into those situations to lay down your foundations and say, hey, I'm going to commit to this. I'm going to commit to listening to whatever my family says, despite how I feel. Because it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter how I feel in the moment. It matters how I feel 20 years down the road when I'm with the love of my life, and my family was able to approve of her.
Well, when Don and I started dating, he went with me to my family's Christmas, to family Christmas. And everybody met him in the family. And my sisters told me afterwards, I don't want to hear anything about him. I said, what do you mean? They said, this is the guy you've waited for your entire life. If we had an encyclopedia that said Patty's perfect man, it would have a picture of him. My God, we didn't think there was anybody out there like this for you, but he the man. He's going to come and take you off our hands. He's got...
Exactly.
He has every bit of our support, and you better not be calling us saying anything negative about him. And, it was... But it was shocking a little bit because my family was all behind him. But they could see.
They still are, too. It's so funny.
Yeah, they are. But they could see how perfect he was for me. And that says, of course, I knew, that he was the right one for me from the very, very beginning. But when you've got your family that's saying that, too, my God, could there be a man more perfect for you?
Yeah. It's
that's
game over.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah.
It's certainly a different scenario than, I don't know, I have concerns.
Yeah.
God forbid, I ever have to say that to one of my children.
Yeah. Honestly, I would be very, very glad if you did have to say that. Well, actually, I wouldn't be glad. I would obviously love to be dating, like, my spouse, right? But...
I'd love for you to be dating your spouse, too.
Yeah, but the thing about it is... you have to be willing to accept that.
Yeah, yeah. And like I said, your sibling gave lip service to it. I think their heart was to want to listen. But then when it came right down to it, they had such compassion for this person that they were dating and could see all the qualities. And I think they were dead right about the qualities this person had and the qualities they were looking for. I just think it was the wrong package. And eventually my child figured that out and, was much happier once the relationship was broken up. But, could have saved a lot of heartache for everybody and a lot of money. Dating's not cheap, a lot of money if after...
I actually looked at some statistics about this, not going to lie.
Really?
Yeah, so the average dating male spends 75% more than his counterpart who's not dating.
Oh, I'm surprised it's only 75%, to be honest with you.
What?
You know your daddy. Your father could not take me out on a date without a coupon. He'd come over to my apartment to pick me up for our date.
Coupons?
Man, to my own heart, dude.
Coupons.
We're going to McDonald's. You're ordering off the dollar menu.
20% off.
He'd pull out the coupons and say, okay, I've got a coupon for this this Mexican restaurant, this Mexico. Ooh, 2 for 1. Ooh, let's go here.
That's a good deal, 2 for 1.
Finally, after, months of dating, I said, okay, our next date, we are not couponing. I'm sorry. I want you to spend a little money on me. Am I not worth it? He kind of looked at me. So, yeah. But, he does that now.
So
obviously, dinner last night was not cheap, and he didn't bat an eyelash at it.
Yeah.
So, but...
Well, because he's like, once a year, fine, if I have to, really, on her birthday, okay.
Yeah, but he doesn't think that way anymore. I think he did for a long time think that way, but now... it's just, 27 years we love each other. He wants me to be happy. He wants me to go to the restaurant I want to go to,
Yeah, that's true. And it was great.
I will say that. Good. The food was tasty. The company was amazing. Over the top.
Yeah, I had a great time last night.
It was fun.
Yeah, despite the broken foot. Which I actually never
we
told
didn't
you
even,
about.
We've not even talked about that on the podcast.
Yeah, oh my gosh.
Yeah,
the number one thing I was going to bring up.
Tell
I didn't
the
even bring
story.
up. Yeah, so let me put that in the camera.
There you go.
Yeah,
Ta-da.
so I got the boot. And what happened was I parked downtown. So I research downtown on Fridays. I have my research group meeting. And so I parked downtown, and then the parade was also downtown, but at a different part. So I was like, you know what? It's probably going to be hard to find parking closer. I'm just going to stay where I'm at. And then when I got to my car, great decision because there were people parking there and then walking. And so I was like, you know what? I already had this parking spot. I'm just going to grab my board and skate on to where my family was and go enjoy the parade with them. So I'm on the way, and I'm on the sidewalk, and there's like this broken up part in the concrete. And so I go and I slow down. Yeah, I mean, in the city we live in, doggone it. It happens far too often. So I go to slow down, and I guess the dismount was like a little weird. But as I was like coming off the board, my ankle kind of rolled into the ditch, and then my foot curled around the bottom of the ditch. Mm-hmm. And that at that point, like, it really hurt. Like I felt like major pain shooting up my foot. Then I continued skating because, you know, if it's not like debilitating pain, then you're still going to skate, you know? And it's like at that point it was easier to skate than to walk because you're not putting the full weight on one of your feet. So I continued skating, and then I got to a certain point where I went to go like dismount again to like get between the sidewalk and the road. There was like a major gap I couldn't have gone over. And I twisted up my leg somehow and sent a shooting pain straight up from like the middle of my foot straight up to the bottom of my calf. And at that point, I was like, okay, yeah, that's the debilitating pain I was looking for.
That's the one right there.
Yeah, so I picked up my board and limped over to where my family was. Anyway, we finished up the parade, then went to dinner, and I was icing down my foot at dinner with my water cup. And I felt the pain, and it was a pain like something I felt before. So I kind of had the idea that it was a break.
So, you know, he asked his sister, what do you think? And she said, well, I don't know, baby. It could be a break or it could be a sprain. And so we progress a little through dinner. And Daelyn says, I think I broke it. I really think it's a break. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I thought I broke it because it's like a dull aching pain. And that's exactly what I felt in my elbow when I broke that. And it's really exactly what I felt in my pelvis, the first bone that I broke when I broke that. Yeah, it's kind of like a dull aching pain. And I felt the pain, and I was like, yeah, that's something familiar to me. It's probably a break. And, you know, so after dinner, we go to the prompt care, get it x-rayed. Sure enough, it's a break. But because I had growth plates in there, it looked like a break to me. So
tell him about the growth plates.
I'll tell him in a second. So I was looking at the x-rays with the doctor who was there in person, and she wasn't a radiologist. She was just like, you know, the doctor on call just to look at the x-rays. And I saw this one piece on the side of my foot. I've looked at a lot of x-rays because for some reason I just happen to keep going to the orthopedic doctor for different issues.
Why. Yeah.
Yeah. So I look at the x-ray.
Much, you know?
I'm like, yeah, I think that's a break too. But it looked a little weird. And she was like, yeah, so that looks a little weird because you've got growth plates still in your feet. And I was like, well, what does that mean? And she said, that means you're still going to grow a lot. And I said, what? What? I'm 20. I'm going to be 21 in like 10 days. And she says I still am growing a lot? What in the world, dude? And I'm already taller than anybody else in my family. So what is going on? Where did these genes come from?
What, the Andre the Giant?
I know, dude. Where did these genes come from? And why are they showing up so late?
Yeah.
You know, why couldn't I have had this in high school, dude? Why couldn't I have just grown up like, you know, middle school, you get that shoot up, and then you're like Yao Ming.
Round 2?
Yeah. No, I got it. You're dunking in 10th grade.
Look at your Uncle Chucky. Uncle Chucky was what, 6'2", 6'3"?
Yeah.
So there are some genes, and, you know, your Grandma Doughty, she was a pretty tall woman, and her father, who I never met, but her father, I think, was well over 6 feet. So, I mean, there are some large, and my Grandpa Blonsky, I thought he was a very tall man also.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
so we've got some tall genes somewhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, I found that super interesting. It's a shame that I had to break my foot to find out, but
but we couldn't believe it. He told us, he said, I've got growth plates in my foot. And I said, no. New clothes. New shoes, new clothes. You won't be able to wear anything.
Yeah.
So
new
I don't know when it's
really
going to kick in.
Yeah, I don't know either.
I'm like, geez, when is it going to start growing?
But she talks about the new shoes. Like, I've got so many shoes in my closet right now that if my feet were to grow a little bit more, it just would not fit.
Yeah.
That'd be
A
problematic.
waste of
for
good
sure.
money, John. A waste of good money.
Yeah. Wow. I gotta start
So-
skating
so-
more and wear them out before I grow.
My niece, Daelyn's cousin, we were texting she lives in Panama City, and we were texting each other yesterday. She texted me happy birthday, and then, we just got to texting, and she has 2 daughters, and she's just busy, busy, busy. So I don't often get a chance we don't talk real often. So anyway, when she was texting me, I thought, I'm going to take full advantage of this while I've got her.
Right.
I'm going to communicate. So we were texting back and forth, and then Daelyn came home and told us about the grade plate. So I texted her. And Deanna was sitting there, of course, and said, well, guys don't finish growing until they're 24. And I'm like,
What?
Dane stopped growing in the 7th grade. Honestly,
True.
he did, John. He still has his clothes from middle school.
That is
Honest
true.
to God.
Yeah.
He hasn't grown any since 7th grade.
What's funny is his middle school clothes now fit me.
Yeah.
It's so odd.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean
Not
any short.
length.
Yeah, no,
Not
no,
length.
well,
Not-
I'm thinking about like the shirts that you tuck in,
Yeah.
you know,
okay.
Yeah.
like the neck size, like shorter
Medium.
size.
He was size medium. Dane still is medium, although he's getting a little bit of a belly, and it's pushing up towards large. But Daelyn wears medium now, so I mean,
Yeah,
the thing about it is, over that many years, John, I'm not going to not buy my child clothes. He has a closet jam packed, and it's like he can wear everything. He's got, probably 300 shirts because we just keep adding to them, and we
Yeah.
never get rid of anything
I
because
mean,
he
since the
still
7th
wears
grade.
the same size.
I mean, when you think about it, if you're getting clothes every Christmas, when you're in the 7th grade, how old are you? You're like 13.
no, you're not 13
You're like
yet.
12.
You turned 13 in the 8th grade, so
I thought
you're
it was
12.
in 7th.
No,
Because you're 11. You're
No,
11
no,
when you
no.
start.
No, honey,
So,
I'm telling you.
11, 12, 12, 13 is 7th. Because you're 15. It's
Are you
gotta
starting
be.
at age
I'm
5 or age
telling
6?
you.
So you're 5 in
Ainsley
kindergarten,
just
okay?
turned 13.
Not
She's
everyone
in
does
the
that,
8th grade.
Okay. Well, she might be young. I don't know.
No, she's not. It's,
Okay.
You turned 13 in the 8th grade, 7th grade,
okay,
11
okay.
and
I'm
12.
not too worried about the specifics, but nonetheless, when you're young like that, and he's like 20. How old is he right now? Like 24?
20. He's got to be 20. He's got it. Well, he was born
Like
in
23?
99.
So he's 24.
24.
24 in
He'll
June.
be 24 in June. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Think about that. 12 to 24.
11 years.
12
you know,
years.
12
yeah,
years.
Almost, yeah.
I think
Same
11 years.
clothes. Okay, look. First grade, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 7th grade, you start at 12. You start at
That's
12, 12 and
exactly
13.
what I had said.
Okay, crap. I hate it when you're right.
Doggone it.
6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, all right.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's what happens when you kind of do math for a living.
All right, smart Alec. I'm an English major. I avoid
I'm
math
kidding.
at all costs.
No, I'm kidding. We have so many clips on the pod where I can't do math whatsoever.
Oh, okay.
And roll those. I'm kidding.
Yeah.
We're not doing that.
Yeah.
No, there's no way
Roll
I'm
that
gonna find
beautiful
This is a
bean footage,
podcast,
yeah.
not a production.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if this wasn't an hour long, if this was a 10-minute video,
An
they
hour
would be
long.
rolled.
Do you think this is an hour long?
Oh, this
I
is
hate to break it to you, but we're coming up on 2.
Are we really?
no way.
It's like
There's
1.5.
no way. Okay, yeah, 1.5. Well, doggone it. With that, we've talked about a lot.
We have talked about it.
This just tells me we got to have her on again.
Something like that.
I thought we were going to talk about parenting. We haven't even touched on parenting.
And I told
We
you,
talk about
it doesn't
parenting.
matter. We had a good
talk
conversation.
about what we talk about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We talk about
Exactly
what we
right. All right. Well, I
Yeah.
guess without further ado.
On mention.
Oh my God! You talk about what you want to talk about. I actually cannot take her anywhere. What in the world? Okay, you know how I said we maybe should have her on again? Yeah.
Maybe not, maybe not.
Scratch that.
that.
Yeah.
Um,
Not so much. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess without further ado, this has been.
well, hang on. It's been a blast having you on.
Yeah, honestly.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, this has been a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Also,
Yeah.
I forgot to say,
We have this much fun at our house all the time. John, come visit.
she said, "Pull up on me."
Might have to.
Yeah. So I guess go check us out on Instagram at the Minimum Wage Pod.
Yep. And check out our Clips channel at MWP Clips on YouTube. Was there anything else that we were going to talk about or no? Because I feel like there was like something, but it doesn't matter, does it?
No,
Yeah,
We'll save it for next week.
something like that.
Yeah. So make sure you like the video. Subscribe if you have not already. Hit the bell to receive
Thank
notifications.
you for having me on.
Yeah, you're
I
welcome.
appreciate it.
Normally
I
we shake with our
put
guests,
on
but
makeup for you guys.
this is actually our first female guest.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
And the first guest who's like not our age.
Rocked it. I rocked it.
You set the bar too high.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie. Every other guest that comes on now is gonna have this as their competition.
Yeah.
And I don't know how they're gonna.
They're not going to compete. That's just the bottom line. They're just going to have to accept the fact that they're not going to be as good.
Yeah.
Oh,
You know?
you're spoiling me, buttering me up, buttering me up. Yeah.
Making your head too
He
big
wants
there,
my
Lauren.
candy, John.
He's going for the cake. That's what it's all about.
Yeah,
It's all
so
about
when
the
I walked
candy.
in, she was about to give me Twizzlers. Now I'm going out with a Snickers.
Daddy gets the Twizzlers. Daddy gets the Twizzlers. Honestly, though, when I finish bagging everything up, it is a completely full gallon-size Ziploc bag.
That is
And this is the good candy, not the cheap stuff and the bubble gum and the Tootsie Rolls. I got rid of all of those.
Now, in comparison, I think both of my younger siblings only got maybe around like 2/3 of a whole gallon bag combined.
Yeah, see?
Which means
They're hanging in the wrong spot. They have to hang with me.
And get bulldozed?
Apparently.
I don't think so. I don't think so. We already talked about doggone.
It's not safe.
You ever seen a quarterback get sacked?
So truth story here. You know, I graduated from Aquinas High School here in Augusta. And so I went to high school with all of them dadgum Irish Catholics. So, you know, all the way through high school and through my 20s, I knew everybody in the parade, everybody, and everybody knew it was my birthday. And so they'd be walking the parade, and I'd be standing on the side, and I'd be hollering, yelling out names, and they'd say, Patty, happy birthday. And they'd all run over and hug me and give me candy. So that was my 20s. Well, then you move forward in life and you're in your 40s and they're driving the truck and it's their kids in the back. And kids don't know me from Adam. They're hollering at them, throw some candy to that woman over there. You know, it's her birthday. Now it's their grandkids. And I found out yesterday a bunch of them were down at the Mellow Mushroom drinking. They weren't even in the parade. They said their kids and their grandkids, you know.
They say we got representation in
Yeah,
representation. That's good enough.
There was the Leonard float, and Richard Leonard, who graduated in high school with me, is down drinking at the Mellow Mushroom with a bunch of the other high school grads that graduated with me, and the Richard Leonard float is making its way through the parade.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, so you know, I can't.
Yeah, you got to pass on the torch somehow.
I can't cash in that ticket anymore. So I just stand there in the road and I yell, "It's my birthday!" Throw candy!
She actually does, and you were a witness.
I was there. This happened.
That's right.
I remember
was
him
there.
asking me. He was
I
like,
was sitting with him.
he was like, how many times is she gonna say it's her birthday? And I said, hey, how
many
many
floats?
floats? Oh,
How
I
many
literally
floats
exactly.
are
Yeah,
there?
how many floats
How
are
many floats are there?
there? Yeah.
No,
I
but
even
it's funny
said
though.
it to
They
the-
were showering her in candy.
Yeah, it was
all these
ridiculous.
kids over here think they're getting privilege, you know, getting their candy. They ain't getting nothing.
It's the
They're dumping
woman-
bags on
Yeah.
her.
The
Exactly.
old woman there that doesn't have any kids with her. The old
Yeah.
woman is getting the candy.
So-
Yeah, buddy, it'll last me all year.
So I learned a valuable lesson from that too. And you know, now whenever I go anywhere, it's my birthday.
It's my birthday, you know what I'm saying? It's always my birthday.
It's
Happy
always
birthday.
my birthday.
So
dude.
you know, they
I was
told
born
us,
today, you know that?
when
You
Dawn
were
and
born
I
today.
were on our honeymoon, they told us everywhere you go.
It's your
Tell them
birthday.
you're on. No, tell
And
them it's your honeymoon.
Oh, your honeymoon.
I mean, it really
Oh,
was
they'll
our
treat you like
honeymoon.
royalty.
But they said, yeah, they'll upgrade you in the hotel. They'll give you free meals. You'll get upgrades on your rental car. Everything.
What in the-
And so I
Yeah,
mean,
but the problem is you got to have someone to bring with you.
well, yeah, it's helpful to have a spouse on your honeymoon, John. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, true. And I will say that one even for the birthday. Like if you're like, it's my birthday, they're like, yeah,
By
of course,
myself.
of course it is, buddy.
But I
I'm
mean,
sure
look
it
at,
is.
we
Where's that
got
license?
At,
Exactly.
at Olive Garden last night, we said, I talked about it and said, do I get a free dessert? And they said, well, ask the waitress. And Deanna said, oh, it's tacky for her to ask for herself. Somebody else asked. And finally the waitress walked over and everybody in the family just stood there. And so I said, sat there looking at her. And so I said, it's my birthday. Do I get a free dessert? She said, yeah. Well, they used to have these little tiny parfaits that was like 3 bites.
Yeah.
You know, that's what they gave you for your birthday.
Oh, yeah.
So she starts going through the dessert menu, and they're all full-size desserts. So Daelyn picks the most expensive one and says, this is the one we ought to get. So we get this huge...
Well, granted, it did look good, too.
Oh,
but
my
I picked it because it was
gosh.
the most expensive.
Anyway, so we get this full-size dessert. It's
I
this,
love how you took a moment
yeah,
to
yeah.
defend yourself,
Yes,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
and then cut your legs out from
Yeah,
under you and
yeah,
said, "But I
right.
did still choose it just because."
Fine, all the same. Right. Anyway, so it was this layered brownie with something topping it. I mean, it was amazing. It was about this tall. It was
Yeah.
fabulous. And then it had grated chocolate on it, maybe chocolate sauce on it. And she brought it to me on this plate that said in chocolate sauce, happy birthday. And then it had smiley faces on both sides. It was really cleverly done. So we started eating it. We're passing spoons and the dessert around the table. Every person, there were all 5 of us, plus my sister was with us. Everybody had all they wanted of the
There's
dessert.
some more.
And out of this one free dessert, it was a
Oven
full-size
loaf.
dessert. And we still had
Craziness.
some left. So we boxed it up and brought it home. And I'm like, hot diggity dog, got food for tomorrow night.
Love that.
You know,
Yep.
but I mean,
Nothing like leftovers because
you have to
effortless.
ask. You have
Yeah,
to
you
ask.
have to ask. And that's one thing I learned from you early on. I was like, whenever we would shop, obviously, you know, you would take me, when I was little, you would take me with you shopping. And there would always be things you'd be like, hey, go get this for me. And I'm like, where is it? And you're like, ask. And I'm like, no, I don't want to.
Well, I had to teach you kids to talk to service people. I'll never forget this story. We were at Applebee's, and
I haven't
my
been to
kids,
Applebee's in so long.
my kids loved what was the name? Jack Daniel's barbecue sauce. That's what I always bought, Jack Daniel's barbecue sauce. So anyway, Dane had ordered chicken fingers, and we were trying to teach the kids to order for themselves so that they were comfortable talking to service people. So we're sitting there, they brought our food, and Daelyn says, they didn't bring me any barbecue sauce. Dane, excuse me. And I said, well, son, you need to ask for it. He said, I need to ask? I said, yes, you need to ask. When the server comes back, ask them for some barbecue sauce. Well, Dane always talked super slow. Hey there. He did, honest to God, John. He talks so slow. So anyway, finally the server comes back, and I prompt him, Dane, and he says, he looks up at the server like this, and he says, I sure could use a little bit of Jack Daniels. I'm looking around for policemen or DFAX people sitting in the restaurant, and I'm yelling, barbecue sauce.
Yeah, so a little
Slurring his words.
a little background for our younger audience that maybe doesn't know that Jack Daniels is a whiskey. Yeah, it's alcoholic. Most of the time when you're ordering Jack Daniels, you're not asking for barbecue sauce.
No, you're
'Cause
looking for a stiff drink.
When you're ordering barbecue sauce, you order barbecue sauce. When you're ordering Jack Daniels,
You
you
order
order
Jack
Jack
Daniels.
Liquor.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so they're, Dane
And
asks
often
for,
they're not interchangeable.
I would say the majority of the
They're
time.
not synonyms most of the time.
Yes.
So, we decided we needed to work a little closer on teaching the kids how to talk to service people. But yeah, I mean, I think it's an important skill that all children need to learn. You know, when my kids got a little older and they'd need to call and schedule appointments at the doctor's or something, Deanna just refused to do it, and I'd make her do
I have
it.
such a hard time with that because, yeah.
So I started writing out scripts for them, and I'd stand
No,
next to
not
them.
for them, for her.
Well, for Dane too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'd have to write out a script, and Dane would stand there and he'd read the script. This is Dane Doughty. I need to get an appointment with the doctor because blah, blah, blah. And he'd read the script. Well, you do that, 5-6 times, and eventually you figure out what you're supposed to say. But, I don't think I had got the gift of gab. I don't think I ever had difficulty, making phone calls.
Also, it was a whole different thing back then. Like, nobody had their phone to distract them from conversations.
Oh,
so you would naturally get better at conversing with people.
That's true.
So I think it was a whole different situation in the day and age that you were born and grew up in. Nowadays, it really is a skill that you have to train. Otherwise, you're not going to have it.
And you have to, it's a parent's responsibility to train that into their children.
Yeah.
It's important
They're
that
not
your
gonna get
children
that anywhere
learn
else.
to be able to get along in
Yeah,
society.
you need to get it while you're young, and you're not going to get it anywhere else other than your parents.
Right.
So yeah,
So one last thing. I know you're trying to end the podcast, but just for John's information, John, when the kids were little, I had lots of friends who, when they went to the grocery store, would get a babysitter, leave their kids at home, and they'd go to the grocery store.
Yeah.
We loved taking the kids to the grocery store. It was a family time.
I think I spent like half my childhood probably in Sam's.
Well,
Yeah.
we didn't.
In Sam's and Target.
This
we
a lot
used
of Target.
Kroger.
We were Kroger.
Oh, Kroger too.
But
Kroger.
we'd
Yeah.
go in Kroger, and I'd have the kids in the buggy,
They got the free cookies.
and we go.
Yes.
Yeah, but you know
Free
there was
cookies are the way to
Oh
go.
my
there
gosh.
was a guy
So good.
Carl that was the manager of the produce, and he always kept dum-dums in his pocket.
Yes.
And if he didn't have any, he'd go buy a bag of dum-dums and bring them over to the produce. So we'd always go to Mr. Carl, and everybody'd get their dum-dums, and they'd be sucking on their dum-dums, and then we'd ride down to the bakery, and everybody'd get their free cookie, and then we'd do this crazy thing, because I had everybody in the buggy. I'd go running down the aisles, and I'd zoom the cart like this. You remember that? It was like a
don't at
roller
all.
coaster ride. I'd zoom them from side to side like this, and then we'd go down, and there'd be the seafood counter, and they'd have the lobsters, and I'd let them pet the lobsters, and I mean, it was fun.
Y'all
We
getting
had a
lit
good
in the
time.
freaking
Yeah, of
marketplace.
Oh yeah, it was not shopping; it was a whole experience.
Yeah, and we did it as a family, and it got to where we loved. Oh, Daelyn, you got to tell your story. We loved shopping because it was a bonding time. It was something we could do as a whole family. So years ago, when we went to church at St. Bartholomew's in North Augusta,
I can tell this story.
we used to always go over to the Kroger in North Augusta after church because we're right there. And tax in North Augusta was cheaper than Georgia, so we'd go do our grocery shopping. Well, they had a guy that did fresh sushi. He didn't speak any English at all, and he stood at the end of like where the deli was, and he had a sushi counter there. So you pick it up from here.
Okay, yeah. So I'm there in my whole church day
outfit,
fit, church outfit.
Loafers.
Yeah, and I had just been watching Karate Kid. You know, the old Karate Kid with the
you
crane
remember?
kick. Yeah, so you remember his training. Like, part of his training is he's learning the move that,
Right.
Master Miyagi does, right? So he's on, like, the posts up by the ocean, and he's, like, practicing the crane kick, okay?
Uh-huh.
So Dane and I are, like, fighting over something, or, like, play fighting or something. And so I'm doing the crane
way
kick.
down in the deli, down by the bakery. Like
Yeah,
probably
so we're on
a
the-
good 12, 15 feet.
Yeah, so the deli, so it's shaped like an L right here. Okay, so there's the dude that makes the fresh sushi right here. Then there's like the place where you
We're
can
on
get
a
fried
podcast.
chicken and things like that.
And then the
Oh,
meats,
yeah.
And
So-
then the deli meats and cheeses, and then
Yeah,
at the
as
end
you
of
go
that,
further
the
down.
bakery. So
Yeah,
Dalen's
so at
like
the very
across from
end
bakery.
is the bakery, and that's where I'm at. And I position up for the crane kick, and I have one foot in the air, and then I go and I complete the move, and my shoe goes flying. Flying.
Like,
And where does it
flip,
land?
Flip, flip.
Oh,
flip,
yeah.
flip, flip.
It was a magical arc. It was beautiful.
Someone needs to calculate that parabola.
That's exactly right. Hey, if it were multicolored, there would have been gold at the end of it, I guarantee.
Every football player wishes he could
And a
throw a
leprechaun.
football that good.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
telling
It was
you.
a gorgeous arc. And it was like, if I was LeBron James, this would be a 3. Anyway, so it goes straight into
15 feet across the store, up, and goes behind the sneeze guard and lands directly in the sushi.
Yeah, and not only the sushi, like this dude is making sushi. Like he's in the process. Like
Actively
he's
making
about to
sushi.
roll this sushi thing up.
California roll. He's
Yeah.
making a California
He's
roll.
about to roll it up, and it drops right in.
Bam, right in
It's like
There's the shoe, the
And he, like,
loafer.
Like the look on his face.
Oh
And
my
he
God.
didn't speak any
Forget-
English. Dalen got so upset. He comes running to me, Mama, and he's only got one shoe on. And I'm like,
What's up with this?
what's going on?
What is shoe
Imagine
there?
what's going through her head when she sees this situation, like her kid running to her, one shoe on.
And then a shoe
And he
in
said,
sushi.
It was the crane kick, Mama. It was the crane kick. And Dane's killing himself laughing, killing himself. So I have to go back to the guy and retrieve Dalen's loafer from the middle of the sushi. And the guy that doesn't speak any English is just like absolutely blitzed out. Like he just can't figure this out. And all the women, we got to, I talked to everybody, John. We knew all the women that worked there in the bakery. And the manager of the bakery was a real good friend of mine. We got to be really close. Anyway, she was always giving us free stuff. We'd order Subway sandwiches and she'd grab extra meat and pile all this extra meat on for us. She was always giving us.
Sounds lit.
Donna was her name. She was wonderful. I loved her. Anyway, all the women had watched it. And Donna called me over and I walked over to her. She said, "Is Daelyn okay?" I said, "No, Donna, he's so humiliated and embarrassed. Like he doesn't ever want to show his face again." And she said, "Patti, we haven't laughed this hard in months and months. Send that kid over here and let us pat him on the back. It was the funniest thing we've ever seen." So I finally talked Daelyn into it. And like he walked over to where the women were and they gave him, like they all applauded him. They all stood around and applauded him. And I think it got him over the hump of embarrassment.
Yeah.
But
I was looking back at that probably changed my mindset about like embarrassing things, because embarrassing things are always so funny.
yes.
You know, they're always so funny, and they're not funny to you at that
Not-
point in time.
I
But they are
I wouldn't say always. Not
yeah,
not
true.
everything that's embarrassing is funny.
funny. I would say the majority of embarrassing
the
things you do
majority.
in public are definitely funny. So
Right,
and
right.
they don't feel funny to you at the time. They're so embarrassing.
A lot of people don't know how to laugh at themselves.
Yeah. And that's what I learned.
They
That's
take themselves
precisely
too
what I learned.
serious, John.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, and now I just float around life, like not really caring too much about how people perceive what I do. You know?
Well, because you're such a likable person anyway, Daelyn. What's not to like about you? People, you're funny,
Mom,
you're
my cream
you're
kicking.
charming, you're fun to be around, and you don't take yourself too seriously, and I think that's an important part.
Yeah.
So anyway, we loved our grocery shopping time as a family.
Quite the experience. So what were you going to say?
It's beyond me.
Okay.
Lost it, huh?
Yep, lost it.
All right. Well, we've already ended the pod earlier. I'm going to cut that part and splice it in here.
Are we? Because I could just do some crazy stuff in timestamps, and then who knows?
Hey, you can roll
It's
this over
organic.
into a second podcast
organic.
and not have to do another day of taping.
We've already announced all of our Instagram platforms and all that. So
Oh.
without further ado,
This has been
Minimum Wage Podcast, where
Where
even the name is above our pay
Pay
grade.
grade.
Peace.
I got it on pay grade.